Matthews, your public defender. The public defender's salary is paid for by the community, and he is charged with the responsibility of giving legal aid free of charge to any person who seeks and needs it. It is the public defender's sworn duty to defend the public accused of crime until they are proved guilty in a court of law. Now, here's a case I'd like to tell you about. It started one afternoon when a pretty but distraught young lady came into my office.
Mr. Matthews?
Yes?
You're the public defender. You've got to help me. Mark's in trouble, terrible trouble. He needs you, Mr. Matthews. He says he doesn't want an attorney, but please do something. Make him listen to you. Make him understand. You must, Mr. Matthews.
Now,
just promise me that you'll...
Just a minute, Miss...
Parker. Alice Parker.
Well, now, I know that you're greatly concerned, Miss Parker, but I can't promise anything until I know what this is all about.
Of course. I'm sorry. But don't you see, Mr. Matthews, he needs advice, or his whole life will be ruined.
Suppose you sit down and start from the beginning. Now tell me, who is Mark and what's his trouble?
Mark Collins. He's my boyfriend. They want to send him back to prison.
They?
I know I'm telling it all confused, but I'm confused. In fact, I never even knew until yesterday that Mark was a parolee. And when they arrested him and charged him with stealing money from the office, I was too shocked, too bewildered to say anything. Because Mark isn't a thief, Mr. Matthews. He's straight and fine. You'll know I'm right when you talk to him.
Then tell me, Miss Parker, why doesn't he want an attorney?
He's licked. Doesn't want to fight back. Thinks everyone's against him.
I see. Then Collins doesn't know that you've come to see me.
No. I haven't seen him. Not since he was arrested. I tried to, but... You are taking the case, aren't you, Mr. Matthews?
Well, from what you've told me, I'm very interested, and I would like to help. I'll talk to Collins. You have my promise. But I'm not sure you understand, Miss Parker, though I'm available to anyone who might need me. I can't force my services. So if this boy should refuse...
He mustn't refuse.
Well, we'll see. Now, I may need your help, so please tell my secretary where we can reach you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
I immediately ran a check on Mark Collins' prison record. Some years before, he had gotten in with the wrong crowd, had too much to drink, and became involved in a robbery. A model prisoner, Mark had been paroled after 21 months. He had spent that time availing himself of a correspondence course in bookkeeping and accounting, determined to equip himself for a different sort of life. After learning all I could about Mark Collins, I called on him at the county jail. I'm Bart Matthews, public defender.
So?
I'm interested in your case.
Thanks.
I'd like to help you, Mark.
Don't kid me. I know what time it is. I'm getting a one-way ticket to the pen.
Is that the way you want it?
It's not the way I want it. That's the way it's going to be.
I can see that you need some advice. Someone to protect your interest.
Look, Mr. Matthews, I'm telling you that a guy with a prison record hasn't got a prayer. What do you care about my interests anyway?
That's my job. I took the oath of public defender to see that guys like you get a fair shake. That's your answer.
And my answer is I don't want a public defender. I don't want any lawyer. I just want to be let alone.
I don't believe it, Mark. I don't believe that you want to go back to prison. Not unless they've really got you dead to rights.
They haven't. I'm no thief.
Then stop being stubborn, Mark, and listen to reason. If you're innocent, I want to do everything in my power to get you out of this. That's a promise I made, and I'd like to keep it.
Promise?
Yeah. To a trusting young lady who believes in you.
Alice saw you? About me?
She asked me to give you this note.
Dearest Mark, I would not be telling the truth if I denied that I was shocked to learn about your past. But that was a Mark Collins whom I never knew, and not the Mark Collins who is in my heart. So let's both forget the other one. I want you to know that I'll be waiting for you when you're free of this awful charge. So please listen to Mr. Matthews. Put yourself completely in his hands, for both your sake and mine. Alice.
Well, Mark?
What do you think, Mr. Matthews?
Good. Then Mark told me his story. Released from the state penitentiary and reporting to his parole board, he carried with him a fear that the stigma of ex-con would haunt and embarrass him always. But the parole officer assured him that no one need ever know that he had been a man with a number, except the employer that they had found for him. Mark was given an address, the By-Right Appliance Company in the Exeter building. Conscientious and anxious to make a good impression, Mark was on hand bright and early. In fact, before anyone was around to open up.
Good morning.
Waiting to see someone?
I'm supposed to report to Mr. Marshall for work. I'm the new bookkeeper.
Oh, he must have forgotten to tell me. Won't you come in?
Thank you.
I'm Alice Parker, Mr. Marshall's secretary.
I'm Mark Collins.
Well, that'll be your desk, Mr. Collins. Why don't you try it for size? I suppose Mr. Marshall's explained about the books.
No, Miss Parker, I haven't even talked to him. You see, took me on through the recommendation of a friend. It all happened so quickly, wish you'd brief me.
Well, Mr. Marshall's our branch manager. We have offices all over the state. We're agents for vacuums and all sorts of electrical appliances. Most of our customers are housewives who buy them on time.
Morning, Alice. Any messages for me?
I just got in, but there was a call for you late Saturday. Mike Clark left this number.
Thanks.
Want me to call him for you?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
I'm just one of the hired help.
This is Mr. Davis. Mark Collins has taken over Max's job.
I'm glad to know you, Collins. I hope you'll last longer than Max did. The old man is pretty rough to get along with.
You're doing all right.
Sure, because I'm not around him much. Just as long as I keep bringing in new clients and collecting a lot of the do-re-mi for 'em, I'm in solid. Which reminds me, I made quite a haul on Friday and Saturday. Check this, will you?
Don't most of the collections come in by mail?
Who are you kidding? I'm the boogeyman around here. I have to go out and scare it out of them. You missed the basket. You can't play on my team, fella.
Good morning, Mr. Marshall.
Morning, Alice. Hi, friend.
Morning.
You're Collins, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Oh, come in. You know, young fella, I'm giving you quite a break. I hope you realize it.
Break?
Well, sure. I'm just accepting the word of the parole board that you'll work out. I never hired anyone like you before. I'm not so sure it's smart.
Mr. Marshall, if you have any qualms about me, I'll ask the parole board to place me somewhere else.
Oh, no. I gave my word. I'll keep it. Of course, the money's not much to start with. But I suppose the parole board has told you about that. But it's a consideration that's coming to me for giving you a break. Right?
Yes, sir. I suppose so.
The months flew by. Mark had fallen in love with Alice Parker, but could not bring himself to tell her about his past. He contented himself by asking her occasionally to dinner and an early movie, or catching little moments at the office.
Thanks, Mark. I've been so busy I haven't had time to even think of lunch. I don't know what I'd do without you around here.
You mean you'd really miss me?
Yes, Mark. I'd miss you. And I'd miss a lot of other things. Like having dinner with you. These lovely roses.
Roses. Maybe once a week. What's that? I'd like to give you a lot more than roses, but when I'm hardly making more than an office boy and things the way they are.
Oh, Mark.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that I'm crazy about you, Alice. I'd like to give you the whole world.
Well, what do you know?
Byrite Appliance Company. Just a moment, please. It's for you. It's that man again.
Tell him I'm still on vacation. Come on, be a good kid.
I'm sorry, Mr. Clark, but Mr. Dave's still out of town. Oh, you did? Well, he must have just gotten back. You're sure it was Mr. Davis? Well, just as soon as he checks in, I'll give him your message. It didn't work. He saw you driving out of the parking lot this morning.
I should have worn a long gray beard.
Who is this character? He's been phoning you off and on for months. What does he want?
He's a good-for-nothing brother-in-law of mine. Down on his heels, broke. Don't let anybody tell you money is scarce, boss. Here's a little over 2,000 I managed to pry loose from our clientele.
Well, it's a swell job, Davis. It's a swell job. That's the way to make collections.
I always say every sawbuck counts.
And I say you're absolutely right. Here, Alice, check this, take it to the bank and deposit it.
Today's a bank holiday. They're closed.
Oh, that's right, I forgot. Well, put it in your cash box and make sure that your desk is locked.
You missed the basket again. You'll never make the team.
I knew I had my work cut out for me. Mark told me that when the watchman regained consciousness, he immediately called the police. And in the investigation that followed, everything seemed to point toward Mark.
Cards are all stacked against me, Mr. Matthews. From that telltale paper cup lying on the floor to the fact that I was out with Alice that night and could have taken her key. And you add to that my prison record.
Well, it won't help any, let's face it.
There was Mr. Marshall accusing me and digging up my past to the police. All I could see was Alice's face and feel her eyes looking through me like she was trying to figure out why I'd kept this from her. Wondering how much she could believe me when I kept saying I didn't do it. And she turned her back on me and started to sob. I was licked. I thought it meant that she didn't want any part of me anymore, that she felt she'd been cheated.
You know better now.
Yes, sir. I know better now.
You're wasting your time, Mr. Matthews. And you're wasting the taxpayers' money. Public defender? It's a mockery. If the city put that same money that it pays into your office into other things, street improvements, parks, better highways.
I can't say that I agree with you. If you knew how many acquittals our office secures...
And there's something wrong with the DA. Because innocent people don't get in trouble. Where there's smoke, there's fire. That's how I figure it. Oh, I'm not one for coddling criminals. Well, I made one mistake. Got soft taking this kid in here. I should have known better. Yes, Mr. Matthews, I say that once a con, always a con. And Mark Collins is proving it.
I had hoped that I might get you to withdraw the charge. After all, the evidence against the boy is purely circumstantial. If he were convicted, you might have a little trouble with your conscience.
I'm a very sound sleeper, Mr. Matthews.
Well, thanks anyway. Alice Parker proved to be my best source of information. My conversation with her brought out two things of importance: a name and a telephone number. The name was Mike Clark, the supposed brother-in-law of Fred Davis, and the number, Poplar 65992. I checked Poplar 65992 with the phone company. It was the number of the Crescent Bar, a second-rate joint down on 3rd Street. I called the police department and asked for one of their special investigators to come along with me. The patrons were typical. A furtive-looking little man sitting near the door seemed mildly interested in our entrance.
What'll it be, gents?
Make mine a beer. The same.
Coming right up.
Mike Clark around?
Who?
Mike Clark.
Never heard of him.
You sure you don't know Clark?
Sure, I'm sure.
Look, if you don't know Clark, why did he give this place as his phone number?
Did he? Oh, I don't know. Why don't you ask him? Maybe he didn't take down the right phone number. Say, ain't I seen you someplace?
I don't think so.
You ever been in here before?
No, never.
Hello? Hello? Yep. Yep.
You know, I never go wrong on a face. And I seen you someplace. I got it. You got a pal of mine out of a jam. I testified at the trial. Tom Finnegan, remember? The boys are trying to let him kick the rap for him.
Oh, you must have me confused with someone else.
Confused, my eye. You're the public defender. Who you kidding?
What's bothering him?
I don't know.
Open up, Clark. Let me in. Find something? Yeah, look at this, John. Might be just what we're looking for.
Davis, come in a minute, will you? This is Mr. Hanlon.
How you doing?
And Mr. Matthews.
Hi. Matthews, the lawyer who's defending Collins?
That's right.
If there's anything I can do for the kid, just let me know.
Okay, then. Now, we know that you've been playing the races and that you've owed Mike Clark, a bookie, several $100s for a long time. Now, can you explain to us how you came into that much money and paid him off early on Saturday morning?
Who told you that?
I suggest that you answer their questions, Davis. Where did the money come from?
Maybe I drew it out of the bank.
Maybe. We can check on that.
Or maybe you took it out of the cash box Friday night.
What are you trying to do, pin this thing on me? Well, you can't. The only thing I'm guilty of is owing a bookie some money, and I'm stalling him off till I can get enough to pay him off. Anything wrong with that?
I would say there's nothing wrong with it if you can explain to us where you were and what you were doing on Friday night.
The watchman says the robbery took place after 10. Where were you then?
I was home in my apartment, getting ready to turn in.
Sure you didn't drop off here first?
Are you trying to put words into my mouth? Of course I didn't.
Now, just a minute, Davis. You're only getting yourself in deeper. You know, Mr. Matthews, I was so sure that Collins stole the money that I never even gave a second thought to any other possibility. Just now, it hit me like a flash. Davis wasn't home Friday night.
That's a lie.
Don't call me a liar, Davis. I tried to phone you a little after 10. No one answered the phone.
Now, it's very important, Mr. Marshall, that there be no mistake about the time of the call. How do you know it was a little after 10?
Well, you see, Friday nights I'm at home watching the television, the fights. Never miss them. You see, the main event goes on about 10 o'clock. Friday night was a quickie. Spider Kelly was KO'd in the first round. And right after that, I tried to get Davis.
Mind if I use your telephone, Mr. Marshall?
Sure, go ahead.
Hello, program information? I wonder if you could check last Friday night's fights and tell me what time the main event was over? Thank you. Mm-hmm. You're sure? I see. Thank you very much.
I was right, huh? Fights wound up a little after 10.
Your information helped a lot more than you think, Mr. Marshall.
Well, good. I'm glad I could be of any help.
This is a frame-up.
Frame up nothing. You're getting what's coming to you, Davis. Any man's a sucker that lets the horses get him.
I take it you don't play the horses, Mr. Marshall?
Never.
Really? Then how can you explain these papers that we found at the bookies?
Paper? What paper?
It's a statement of accounts owing Mike Clark. Seems that you owed him much more than Davis did. I think you'll find it was $1,816.
Now, look here. If you're meaning to insinuate that
It's more than an insinuation. You're being placed under arrest for stealing company funds. Unless you're clever enough to tell us how you saw those fights televised Friday night.
But I did see them.
Perhaps you read about the fights in the paper. But if you saw them, you must have X-ray eyes, because the station just informed me that they had microwave trouble and ran a film instead. You see, Hanlon and I were sure that Marshall was our man from the minute we picked up the papers at the bookies. We were only pretending that it was Fred Davis until we could get Marshall to trap himself, which he did. Oh, and one more thing. Channel 2 had no microwave trouble that night. The fights had been televised as usual. I knew that Marshall's alibi was a fake, so I did a little faking myself. I simply called my office, but pretended I was talking to the station. Well, it's time to be getting back to court. Mr. Marshall's due for sentence. And right after that, if you're wondering what this carnation is for, I'm going to be best man at the wedding of Alice and Mark Collins. The case you have just seen was brought to a fair and just conclusion through the efforts of a public defender. We congratulate Public Defender Cuff and his staff for outstanding achievement in the cause of justice.